Hello, my name is Giacomo Arnaboldi, and I will be explaining the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and how it affected the events all the way up to the modern day. To understand why the war effort developed the way it did, one must first understand some of the history regarding Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a landlocked country located in the Middle East which sits in a harsh and almost inhospitable area between the crossroads of traditional great powers. For millennia, the country has fought off invaders from all over the civilized world. Conquerors such as Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan have attempted to control the region, but the Afghan people have managed to stave off conquest time and time again, labeling the country as the graveyard of empires. There are several reasons as to why the USSR invaded Afghanistan. However, the primary reason is the fear that the Soviet Union could lose control of the region. In 1978, the Iranian people would revolt against their leaders so that a new Islamic state could be established. This revolution scared the then leader of the USSR, Leonid Brezhnev, since he believed that the surrounding nations would follow suit, leading to a replacement of communist regimes with Islamic ones, loosening the control that the Soviet Union held in the region. Another reason for the invasion was how Muhammad Taraki, former Afghan president, would be assassinated and replaced with Hafizullah Amin. The USSR was dissatisfied by President Amin, who the USSR would assassinate only 3 months after he took the presidency, heightening tensions between the two nations. Finally, the Sino-Soviet split was in full swing, with the relations between China and the Soviet Union at an all-time low, leading to one less ally the USSR could rely on. The Soviet Union would invade Afghanistan on Christmas Eve 1979. The USSR was quick to seize key urban locations, achieving the capture of Mr. Amin, who would be executed and replaced with Babrak Kemal. Over the course of a decade, the Soviet Union would invade the country of Afghanistan, leading to a domino effect of important events which culminated to the fall of the Soviet Union. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan has been compared to the Vietnam War that the United States took part in. Much like Vietnam, the Soviets had the intentions of a quick victory, since they were under the impression that superior firepower and a more sizable army were all it took to invade a country. However, the Afghan people rallied together to provide a tactic based on guerrilla warfare. Even though the Soviets quickly took control of major urban areas, the rebel groups of Afghanistan used their knowledge of the landscape to their advantage. As stated by David A. Shipler, the Soviet-Afghan conflict was an accumulation of circumstances in the previous 18 months, rather than as a part of any grand strategic plan. Afghanistan is home to many small groups of Islamic tribal warlords. Seeing as how the USSR invaders were predominantly Orthodox, this gave credence to a jihad, or a holy war. The warlords were quickly united against the Soviet Union, labeling their group as the Mujahideen. However, forming a group would not cause the Soviet invasion to fall through. Seeing as how they were lacking military power compared to the Soviet Union, the United States saw this as an opportunity to one-up the USSR, so a plan to smuggle in arms through Pakistan and provide CIA training to the rebels was put in place. The United States was attempting to contain communism, the Mujahideen was trying to liberate Afghanistan so that it could all be independent, and Pakistan was happy with a pan-Islamic cooperation. As the war continued, more resemblances could be seen to the Vietnam War. The Red Army seemed to face an endless enemy, as for every combatant they managed to kill, it seemed like 5 more showed up in its place. Much like the US and Vietnam, the Soviets continued winning battles, but it did not matter as they were still losing the war. In 1985, the war had finally worn on the patience of the Soviet Union, politics, and people. The illusion of the grand communist power began to disintegrate, and an exit strategy would be put in place by the new General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev, who held unique foreign policy and anti-war sentiments. Gorbachev could see that this conflict has negatively impacted the USSR, draining it of its funds and crippling its reputation. Thus, in 1988, he would sign off on the Geneva Accords, an agreement which would see the USSR begin withdrawal and no further intervention from any political power. The USSR would remove its final troops in 1989, marking the end of direct involvement in Afghanistan. However, this was not the end of the conflict. war would plague Afghanistan for quite a while longer, and the Soviet Union would support the fight against the Mujahideen rebels until its collapse in 1991. The problems that Afghanistan faces to this day can be traced to the Soviet-Afghan War. Even after the Soviet Union was dissolved, war in the region continued as there was a power struggle between who would control Afghanistan. Mohammed Omar would form the Taliban and control a majority of the region, including Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. Afghanistan would become the central operating point for many terrorist cells, with the Taliban offering shelter to al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Many of the issues that have been facing Afghanistan can be traced to the invasion of Afghanistan by the USSR. The war was when local militias were armed and trained, and it is also when they developed a hatred for those that were against Islam, as they were under the impression that they were fighting a jihad. In conclusion, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and its effects still impact the modern world. The training provided to the Mujahideen rebels created an opportunity for those with ill intent to cause more damage than they could normally. And also the cost of the war and loss of respect from not being able to win it caused the USSR to lose its strong image as a communist utopia.